to give you a couple of things you can do during the waning moon, it's the decreasing moon. So we recently had a full moon in Gemini next to Mars, very hectic. And funnily enough, just as we had this moon with Mars in the night, I woke up by hearing combat planes, which we get around, but they were like right with the full moon. So that was interesting. That something interesting that happened. Um, and yes, indeed, it was, quite an angry moon and so on and so forth. But now the moon is separating from that conjunction with Mars, trining Saturn, and approaching better seas. And it is a decreasing moon. So, what we can do with a decreasing moon is basically remove things that we don't desire to have in our body, in our life, certain habits, certain relationships, and um, there are a couple of very simple things that literally anybody can do with their own kitchen. And I wanted to touch on that because I'm trying that and I'm sharing that with the world. So, one of the things you absolutely don't have to be a holistic health practitioner for is making an oil with your homemade herbs. And for that, it is better to use the dried version of herbs. I chose for this decreasing moon a clove with a bit of cinnamon and some roses because I like to add roses. You want to have them dried, you want to have them clean, preferably organically sourced, and you just fill like a mason jar halfway with the herbs. So you can put a couple of cinnamon sticks, some cloves, you can put whatever you have, basically. And then you pick your herbs, fill it about at least half the jar, and you want to leave some place for the oil. And you want the oil to cover the herbs, but reach almost the top, but not the top of the jar. You can use a mason jar. I used recycled honey jars that I have at home, and then you're gonna want to label the date where you did that, and then you add some olive oil, preferably. If you have another oil of your choosing, that's okay. But the olive oil is like the classic. You want to make sure it's an extra virgin olive oil, cold. I wanted to say brewed. I don't even know how to call that. It's just cold pressed. Sorry, cold pressed. Um, so you don't want any oil that went through any chemicals or whatnot. You want to have your ingredients safe. You want to make sure that your mason jar is clean, preferably boil it beforehand. Um, and then you just fill in the jar with oil up until almost the end, but not the end. You want to leave a little bit of space, close the jar, shake it, and put it in a dark place. You can put it in a cabinet in the kitchen. And what you want to do every day for the next 10 days or 2 weeks, depending on your practice, is to shake the jar, open it, take a little bit of a paper. You can use even the toilet paper of not used, of course, and clean the humidity on the lid, and then put it back in every day for about 10 to 15 days. You want to do that. The next thing you're going to want to do is to strain the mix, and that is after having 10 days, 2 weeks, when the oil absorbs all the qualities of the herbs. You're going to want to strain it, so you want to have a special cloth that fits for that, or a special a tool that you can, or net that you can strain that with, and then you can strain it into um, another, jar, or a box that you can, that is from glass, that you can close, and there you have it. You have an oil with the concentration of the herbs of your choice. If it's the first time you've been doing that, you haven't used oils, and you haven't used herbs in that concentrated fashion, um, I'm going to talk about the qualities of those oils. Then you can use that oil. You can anoint it. You can anoint it on an altar. You can anoint it on your skin. You want to make sure that you're not allergic, so you test your own. You made that, but you test it on your body at least 48 hours, just a little bit, to make sure that it's practically safe. um, and you can massage yourself with that oil. It can be calming oil. um, since the leaves are edible, you can actually even consume this oil, not more than 3 spoons per day, and separate it. And then that's another way um, to use herbs. Now, you can do the same tincture, or it's not a tincture actually, the same oil um, for removing things when the moon is decreasing. Remember what I said about manifestation? You can have the same manifestation. It's just that when the moon is waning, you phrase it as you are diminishing and removing the blockages or the challenges to your desired manifestation. Uh, so that is what you would do with the waning moon. So this same, let's say I put some cloves, some cinnamon, and some roses, and I asked the materia to diminish any pesticides or any fungal infections or any undesired botany within my body and around it, and to diminish all challenges for self love, self care, self nourishment, and so on, happy relationships, and self love, and whatnot. And I use the same herbs. So, cinnamon, clove, and roses, which is lovely. If the moon was waxing, I could use the exact same um, blend. Okay, you have to design it, you have to prepare it with the moon waxing, because when you prepare an oil, you ask for something. It has a purpose, and it's made under a certain moon effect. So I could use the exact same blend, the exact same oil, and ask during a waxing moon, when the moon is increasing. I could ask for increased abundance, increased self love, increased self care, good absorption of vitamins, and then I would take actually the herbs with the intent of increasing well being in my life. Waning moon, decreasing challenges to well being. So the oil is one version. You can also do it as a tincture, and then instead of oil, what you would add is, let's say, vodka, because that's alcohol, and then you would have a tincture. And then again, it sits for about, I think, 2 weeks, and you shake it every day. And then I think you don't have to wipe out the lid when you do tincture. You shake it every day, still put it in a cabinet somewhere dark, label it so that you'll remember to come back, or put a reminder so that you'll remember what jar you did. And then you strain it into into a bottle, and then you use a pipette, like, or something that you can use with drops, because with the tincture you don't take more than a couple of drops. The alcohol is going to do the job, and that's another way to use that. Again, with the decreasing moon, you're gonna ask this tincture. It's a great. You could make a great tincture to that is antifungal, to remove pesticides. Um, And if you add some lavender in there or some chamomile, you can ask, to decrease mental clutter, and then you can have a tincture for um, better concentration, clarity, and so on. So with the waxing moon, clarity, concentration, what you want to increase; with the waning moon, what you want to decrease in your life. And this is a very beginner phase. You're looking at Lizzie, who came by to eat, and so you have the oils and you have the tinctures. You absolutely do not need to be anything special to do that. You do need to learn a bit about the herbs. You do need to learn a bit about side effects with the tincture. You don't want to take more than a couple of drops in a glass of water. Remember, it's diluted with alcohol, with very clear alcohol, so it's not, you know, something to get intoxicated with, but it is also something, a way for you to incorporate, let's say, Neptunian qualities or Jupiterian qualities or Piscean qualities. And unless, of course, you have a problem that requires not to be anywhere around alcohol, you can do something that's actually positive with that, and that's healing. It's taking the pole of Virgo, that is herbs, and taking the pole of Pisces, that is alcohol, and using that as a tincture to heal yourself and to create good habits instead of bringing upon intoxication or undesired effects of alcohol. So you give alcohol a place in your life, you give, unless you are um, in a situation where you have to remove alcohol completely from your life, you can give that a place in your life that is a place of honor, that you know you use that for sake of healing as tinctures, um, and then it takes its place. Okay, it's when something receives, when a certain archetype receive a place, then within it acts within the domain of that place, then it's benefit for your well-being, and not a distraction that you're running into in your life, internally or externally. So, and again, that's not an all-inclusive. Some people do have to not have anything to do with alcohol, and that's okay. So those are two things that you can do that are potent. Of course, you can use teas in the same fashion. I really like to make tea when I make things because um, it's always very good to have a little bit of, of those herbs that you put in the oil or in the tincture with the same intention, and then drink it and as a tea. So it's a less concentrated way of having the same benefits. If you use medicinal quantities of tea, then it's usually about a spoonful of the herb that you're using. Um, and then you're already increasing the potency, and you can do that with tea. Like, you don't have to go all the way to oil if you don't feel like doing that, if you don't have the commitment to shake those things like every day. With the tincture, I think you just put it aside and sometimes shake that, but with the oil you really need to caretake, so it won't mold for you, on you, because you want to remove any water residues that the herbs might have during this time, and that takes a bit more of a commitment. But you can absolutely use tea, and just the same fashion, waning moon, you ask for the things you want the tea to remove. So remove undesired pesticides, undesired bacteria, undesired pollution or fungi or whatnot from within the body, or undesired mental clutter or whatnot. Remove that and decrease that, and so on and so forth. And with the waning moon and with the waxing moon, you want to increase. So you would say, I want to have more mental clarity, and you think about it as you're preparing your tea. I want to absorb the vitamins. I want to have, um, you know, another. And then there's the third thing that you can do, is also food related. And when we studied aromatherapy, we studied about a blend called thieves. And, people teach that with a bit of a PC, um, notion. No, the blend is called Thieves, and the origin of that blend is basically during the pandemic. I think it was the Spanish, like the Spanish flu or something. Um, they were thieves, and they took advantage of the times of sickness, and they stole things from people. And what they used to get around it, like they had to steal, so that what they used to get around, again, a very mercurial tendency, they had to adapt. So what they would prepare for themselves is basically a blend called Thieves, to protect them from any ailment as they are going around their business. And so the blend is called Thieves traditionally. And it's made with all kinds of, like, there are changing recipes, but here is something you can do. You can take at least a head of garlic, just a head of garlic in itself, some ginger, some hot peppers, like chili peppers, cinnamon, clove, very good. You can take a bit of rosemary as well, that you can use for that. And any more that is seemingly related, maybe even turmeric. And if you put turmeric, so put some black pepper, and black pepper is great to use in that. And then you make sure you have enough of that, to kind of fill half a jar. And this one you want to use a bit of a bigger jar, because you're going to be using that. And then you want a bottle of apple cider vinegar, but the type that is not strained. You still want to have the mother within the bottle. So you're going to put all, you're going to cut the ingredients, put all the ingredients. Of course, make sure that the jar is boiled because you're growing bacteria. When you put the thieves oil in it, the thieves, sorry, not thieves oil, thieves blend in it, and put all the ingredients in, and then you ask for it because it's a waning moon. It's a great time to do that. You ask for it again to remove all pesticides, to fight ailment, to fight undesired bacteria. When you're mentioning bacteria, mention undesired bacteria, excess bacteria, excess fungi, and so on. So like undesired fungi, like you want to make sure you're filtering the undesired ones. They're great bacteria in our body. If we take too much of a good thing, then that can be problematic. And then you just add into the jar, fill it entirely with the apple cider vinegar. That includes the mother. Airtight, more you want a jar that closes, a good airtight closing, and then you fill it up. Make sure that the vinegar covers your stuff, and then airtight, close it. You could give it a shake, like you don't even have to do that. The vinegar is going to do the job. And again, after 10 days, 2 weeks, because you want to let it absorb, you can strain that, and you can take like a spoonful of that in a glass of water every day. It's very good for the winter. And this is, again, it's something you can use it on, like in any phase of the moon, but the best benefits you're going to get, because it's designed for waning moon, it is basically when you do it also with the waning moon. But sometimes, because it's a habit and you want to have a spoonful of that, um, teaspoon to tablespoon in a glass of water, or in a shake. Some people put it in shakes. I don't know, haven't tried it. And drink from that every day. You don't want to overdo that. It's a very potent one. Of course, if you are catching the flu, catching something, then you can use that. Did I say that I'm speaking here? I know I'm a holistic health practitioner. I'm not even speaking with that head. I'm speaking with the head of an astrologer who is liking herbs, not even head of a herbalist. It's more just basic stuff you do to maintain your health. Of course, if you're allergic to some of these things, you can avoid them. Um, of course, this is not medical advice. It's as much medical advice as your grandma. and of whichever, lineage it is. Um, but those are just great things to do. This is a time to get, to get your garlic out, to get your clove out, to get all these herbs that are anti something, and use them. Now, the best use, of course, you have when the moon is hard aspecting Saturn or Mars. Uh, you wouldn't like you would need to experiment with that if you're not used to working with malefics. Don't begin your magical practice there. Um, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of something to do because we're approaching the winter, and with whatever you have, let's say if you have only garlic and apple cider vinegar, use it. If you have, I heard you there are versions of honey and garlic. I don't know, like I need to check the recipes and tries, and I could share with you. Um, and remember, like with the oils and the tinctures, you can do the exact same thing on a waxing moon. And like I said, with the thieves blend, I think you want a waning moon for that. So even right now, like moon is separated from the full moon phase, we're already decreasing. It can be great because you can have it ready before the new moon, and it can actually be a dark, void of course moon praxis that you can do. So like you can take that during a void of course moon, or do something that's very protective during the void of course moon. And then on the new moon, like you can plan for still on the new moon you can use that, but then when the moon is already first percent, then you are going to want to make your increasing oils, and I will have a new video for that. So I'm just doing the waning moon. I just had a tincture, which I'm gonna blend. Tincture. I just had oil. I guess I'm going tomorrow for the alcohol so that I can have I can make it a tincture. Um, you have your own homemade apothecary. Again, do your research, study the herbs. The more you go, even medicinal teas, medicinal quality, when you have at least a spoonful of your herb of the choice or powder, you're already in medicinal territory. Do your research. Yes, it's nature. Yes, it's also potent. Now, as you begin to work with these things, you can try and see which herbs belong to which planet. Kind of, you can kind of think for yourself, and you can see that, for example, clove is associated with Jupiter, but it's also associated with Saturn. Um, Cinnamon is considered very much a Mars-like herb. Um, it's absolutely not the end of the story for aromatherapy. It's known to increase abundance, increase self-love, good for fertility. It's also a fertilizer for the plants, along with turmeric. Turmeric is absolutely known as a Mars herb, although it's a tonic. So you can play with that. Lavender is very much associated with Mercury. And you can see what the moon applies to at that day and kind of add that to your um, blend of the choice or to your tea. And again, if depending on your sensitivities, because that might prove helpful. So you can get a very intuitive practice that is moon sensitive, um, and because the moon draws to earth, you can check my moon series, moon across the zodiac series, because the moon draws to earth whatever it touches is the closest to earth, then you're gonna want to capitalize on that, and then you can begin to learn about the fixed stars. Maybe there are some herbs associated with that. So that is a very tender way, even without calling the entity or calling this or calling that. That will already require ability to read a chart and practice magic and so on. But let's say you can see what kind of asteroids does the moon touch today. What can I do with those asteroids? And learn about them even on the same day. And that's good for every moon praxis. Um, and if the moon is well aspected, you can petition the moon. If the moon is decreasing, you can petition the moon to help you with the decrease of what you want to decrease in your life. Um, so those are my waning, waning moon practices that I wanted to share. Um, and yeah, and these are also good for the winter. And as I will continue to experiment with these, I can share more. If you want to do like vanishing candles, I've heard that that is a word, so you're gonna want to choose the colors that are relevant, and you prefer the moon to be aspecting that which you desire to use. So let's say if you want to deflect something, you want to, and you're using red, and perhaps Mars can be a good thing. Um, if you're dead on serious about it, you can go like for more, fixed stars. But I don't think that's for beginners. I haven't tried that myself. Or black candles can go with Saturn. If you want to, stop something dead in its tracks, it's very good. It's a very good color. Um, and that's more like moon magic for that waning moon phase. You don't have to wait until the moon is new or void, of course, or you don't have to wait until the moon is full. You can actually begin to do that and incorporate these practices. And let's say, even if the moon is not perfect, it's going to do um, a good job. And that is a way for you to communicate with the planets, and that's a way for you to communicate with nature and understand why certain things come into fruition, certain things decay, and work more with nature, capitalize on what nature can do for you instead of trying to, fight it and go against the grain in everything. Um, so that is my moon. Um, yeah, if you work in with essential oils, do that safely, and I mean safely not just in terms of how to use the oil, but also where you source it from. Private distilleries are going to do 10 times more than the magic than MLM companies. Just saying. Um, it's one of the things that made me sometimes like question, like, do I want to present myself as an aromatherapist, because people are going to think I'm doing MLMs and I'm not. So you want to source the oils, and you want to know about oil safety, because even something, say if you have a baby in your house, even something like a mint can literally endanger the baby's lives, because it's creating a cool environment, and then it can interfere with the breathing pattern of the infant. So, and mint is natural, it's cooling, it's lovely. Yes, it can also be, lethal for infants, just simply because of the cold effect. There's nothing else. But you want to get acquainted. You want to know what you're doing, basically. Also, when you're using these oils or using these tinctures, like, of course you're not going to use them with infants unless you've been initiated to do something like that. Of course, if you're not a herbalist, like, you just know, do, yeah, work wisely. Um, Even oils that are considered safe, like orange oil, is something you give to women at labor, can cause a bit of allergies to people who are not used to that, or for people for whom that might be too strong. So I just wanted to give you a way to work with herbs that is more accessible and still very, very potent. Um, so oils for the waning moon, like essential oils for the waning moon, I think pretty much anything. Do make sure that if you're working with sage, you also bring in something in, even though it's the waning moon. I can burn some cinnamon for incenses. Um, Again, with the same intentions. I haven't tried to burn cloves. Cloves, I think it should be great, especially for the winter. Um, and then the moon, like the same herb of the days will be the oil of the day, nutmeg. Like, how interesting is doing. Like, nutmeg is crazy. Um, so that's my advice for today. If you want to ask me more about these things, if you've tried these things, if you're doing these things or practicing, you can also post in the comments below. What have you been doing? We can share recipes and experiences and so on and so forth. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye. Oh, subscribe, of course, channel promotion, subscribe, so on and so forth. Um, If you like this, I also have two other channels. It's Jupiter Rising Shirley and Shirley Tully, A Real Dreamer, both on YouTube. It's a social experiment that I made of electing two dates for new social media and seeing what happens. I opened a Tumblr. I think it's STJ, A Real Dreamer, or Shirley, A Real Dreamer, and another Twitter account, which, okay, Twitter account. Um, so I'm available there too. I'm still Shirley Youngwood on Instagram. I'm Talisha on Twitter, but like I haven't been using that account so much. So if you have been trying to contact me there, perhaps Instagram is the better choice now. Um, I do readings, so and again, you're going to like until PayPal gets themselves sorted out, you're going to have to be comfortable with giving me a bank transference, which means you need to find me. Um, I will not contact you. Okay, so that's important. I will not contact you for a reading. There are many scammers out there. Um, and eventually, I would like to go Patreon. I opened a Patreon actually this new moon. This around the new moon, and I have a tier there that I can have like videos I do. I think that's preferable than for me to do Patreon, where you have the Patreon and you know the site and you can donate through the site. Um, than contacting me for a reading because there are just so many scammers out there. And although I have not been fortunately imitated just yet, it's not important enough for them. Um, at this point, I think it's getting safer. It's also getting more comfortable for you to pay for paid content and support me in that way than to book a reading. It's also more scalable in terms of a business strategy, and you can like have Q and A's. Eventually, what I want you to do, and I will have another video about that. I want you to be able to do readings for yourselves. I want you to be able to work with the planets. I want you to be able to do that and grow yourself. I think that that's healthy. Even if you came to me as a holistic health practitioner, probably the passage would be so that you will make certain changes in your life. First, you make your tinctures so that I don't tell you where the moon is. You know where the moon is, and I can guide you through that process. But um, I'm not here to take your sovereignty and authority away from you. I can give you tools and practices and teachings to regain sovereignty, and we can share recipes together as equals rather than as the type of relations of an excess hierarchies and excess power relation gaps that have been um, destructive, and also I think it's a lot more fun. And I can have a video, I can share what I did, what I did, and so on and so forth, and you can We can honor each other and save money to budget each other's art, which eventually is going to be the best for all of our well-being. Budget our art, our scientific experiments. That is going to keep us healthy and functioning way more than doing readings with each other. As useful as it is. Um, it's like it's nice. It's not scalable, and it causes you to be dependent on me in a way where I'd have to feel bad if I go out on a vacation, which I don't want to do. Um, and that probably should be another episode, but then, I was sick for 10 days and I'm still recovering. Um, and my plants survived, fortunately, and I realized I have to like find a solution to water them. But I realized just like you will grow a business and you don't want the business to depend only on you. So if you're gone, poof, no. Um, I'd like to be able to have vacation time. I'd like to be able, also for my plans to grow if I'm traveling. I'd like to be able for my business to grow if I'm traveling. A video or a course is something you can tend to, um, is something that, if it doesn't require too much customer support, is something that is there, that's available. Um, and we are here to make a living while making a life. And that to me, being sick for 10 days and not being able to tend to my plant because I was also not at home, um, was a big lesson to me that just like when you grow a business, you don't want that business to rely only on you. You want to have either other people or a certain sort of automation process where you can take out, where you can recover, where you can go out on a vacation. And then it's important also when you do homesteading and raise your plants. And this is also important just as much as I like to work. My um, oil that like the first recipe I gave you will require me every day to shake the jar and to wipe out like the dirt that I created for myself. A bit work. It's not a terrible thing. I think that work in good dosage is healthy. It's contributing. The fact that I water my plants every day, I love it. Um, but just as much as it's important to work, and I like to work, and I like to do something creative, the more healthy I am, the more creative stuff I can do. It's also important to rest, and it's also important to be able to um, take, to take time off because otherwise the body will decide for you. And that's what happened. I came to visit a sick relative, and instead of me caretaking for them, I got sick and we were both lying in bed for 10 days. Um, so sometimes like if you're not resting, the body will tell you. And I did not expect that because I'm at home. I thought I'm not working. Bullshit. I'm recording every day, and I love it. For me, recording these videos, it's self care. The right kind of job is a job that is healthy for you. I believe in the value of that contraction, that workout. Um, but you also have to be able to rest. And as the moon decreases, it's very important. We're getting into a slow mode, so it's good to create job for yourself, but you also have to create job for yourself. And whatever you do, whether it's your business, it's your job, maybe you're even employee, you have to be able to have at least a week, at least 10 days, 2 weeks. Think about the time when you get an ailment. Think how long does it take you to recover. That and how for like how many times you were ill, like in the past year. This is about the time you need to have a vacation. So even if you had something like, let's say, long COVID, um, which is terrible, if you go back to your life, and I'm not saying, of course, yes, you can have an ailment if you take all your vacations. Like that's not where I'm leading. I'm not leading you to feel guilty about what symptoms. It's not the point. But if you pay attention, if you have like every year where you have to have 15 days off when you're sick, then at least think or invent or manifest or pray or ask to have this time off, but this time instead of for an ailment and for the body to recover, to have some sort of a retreat, to have some sort of a rest. And you know what is a rest? Sometimes it's to walk in nature, sometimes just to do something that's not related to your daytime job, even if you have the best daytime job in the world. Um, that's necessary. It's necessary for you to sleep well, um, and eventually, you know, the body the body will decide for you if you don't do that. So if you have like a big long ailment, it can be that for a while you have not been taking time off, and some of that ailment is perfected for you, and some of that is something for you to learn, because maybe, every once in a while think, when was the last time you were that sick, or when was the last time you had that much time off, and try to think about the cycle. Sometimes it would be a Saturn cycle. Saturn has another, around 7 years of a cycle. So every 7 year, for example, in agriculture, the seventh year is a year that, for Judaic practices is called Shemitah. It's basically the year that you don't plant new seeds in. You let the ground rest for an entire year. So if it's Saturn related, you're gonna have to rethink you're gonna have to, maybe you're gonna do 6 years of work or 7 years of work and then a year off, because if you won't do that, your body will do that for you. And Saturn takes time, so Saturn related recovery, they take time. Okay. So even if you have been experiencing something like long COVID, you better like pray and ask and manifest that at least, let's say, when you recover, take time. For how long are you sick? How long did it take you to recover? And you will recover. Most likely you will, as much as it's in the path for you. Um, and it's not only life changes that you make, but also take that time off. If for some of you that has been 2 years, begin to save for these 2 years. Begin to put money aside. Begin to do something even symbolic that would allow you the next 2 years to be 2 years of a retreat, 2 years of traveling the world, 2 years that you dedicate to writing your book, because it's a cycle. And most cycles are not, a one-time occasion. Okay, if it's a Saturn maturation, start planning for, or Saturn square, start planning for, the next 7 years. And it's also something for me to look at in my life, kind of think of, how do I set money aside to not be working for several times a year, and to travel, not to not be working because you're sick, not to not be working because something happened, but sometimes to not be working because you take that time off to travel, to take a look at the cultures, to learn something new, to retreat, to do something that you don't usually do. And that is a way better way to think about it and to think about life, and to understand that that would only make your work more potent. Okay, the time I had off where I learned aromatherapy was great, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do aromatherapy, I'm going to be an aromatherapist. I was like, quick. And eventually I started growing plants, and I started learning about the planets and plants, and I started doing all these things which that I was too tired to do, with herbs, and things got different, and I'm, posting a vlog about that. I can share my experience with that. And I had a very emotional video about, um, my plants, and, my growing, my process of growth that comes with that, and all those things that I did not expect. And if I was thinking in the mindset of, okay, I learned this course, now I'm going to practice that, life takes you certain directions. Um, and you need to allow for that flexibility. Work is very, very varied. It's not just something you do 9 to 5, whether for yourself or for another, and make a living. Schedule, for me, when I started learning about moon cycles, when I started learning about astrology, I was like, that can be more the answer to my schedule than um, the life or the kind of frameworks that the people might expect me to, whether in studies or at work, which teaching is also work. And and I realized that the planning of time has to be more accurate for me. Just like if you're neurodivergent, then sometimes, you know, planetary positions may tell you more about your ability to achieve clarity than whatever pills you're taking or not taking. So, and so I still, being holistic health practitioner, it doesn't go away, but it doesn't have to be. For me, what I didn't like was that we were continuously told people will come to us only when they've tried everything and nothing worked. And I rebelled against this notion. Then I began to appreciate cosmetics because everybody do cosmetics every time. Like people love that. And then you can do natural cosmetics. Okay, so you have some oils in the cosmetics and you have some creams or you have something that's natural. That's a way for you to pamper yourself and enjoy yourself and have some good time. Um, and and then I began to see like the big value in cosmetics, that like natural cosmetics. It was like, oh, that's something that people do that is healthy, that can introduce scents and flavors and textures into the lives of people in a way that is very medicinal, but without them being sick. And I began to appreciate, food and nourishment. I enjoyed cooking essential oil blends so much so that I began to enjoy cooking again. And suddenly I was more delighted to prepare a nice meal for myself. And cooking is something that we all, cooking meals for yourself, cooking meals for friends, that is a very healthy practice that you can do, and you don't have to be sick. You don't have to wait until you're sick to do that. To incorporate some nice food, some healthy food, along with your pampering food. And astrology is something that everybody reads the horoscope and what did it say about this, what did it say about that. We can incorporate all kinds of cool things into your daily life. And those things you don't have to wait until you're sick to do. Let's say you're menstruating, follow the moon cycle. And this is so exciting because there are moon cycles for people who would like to have children and moon cycles for people who are creative in other ways. And there's like I think a red cycle and a white cycle or something like that. And apparently it works. And for me, it was like, I'm not sure if I'm like, what do I want? And I actually got my menstruation in between moon cycles, like the indecisive state of me concerning the type of fertility that I'm going for was actually manifesting in my body. That's freaking awesome. Okay, and it's not a good or bad thing. It's just to show you the state of affairs. Do something with your blood. Paint with it. Those are things you don't have to be sick to do. And that's the kind of value that I'd like to bring. Create art. Create art is the most healing thing you can do for it. I know there's AI. You know what? Even AI. Put some words in the AI generator and create some nice stuff together with the computer. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do your own drawing, your own sketching, but you can also, if you're not paint oriented, then you can think of nice concepts and press them in the AI generator and see what happens. Some of my best clickbaits were made with AI, and I think it's lovely. So being creative, creating things, it's the most healing. You create life with every creation that you have. That's why I say put some money aside, both for your creation and sometimes to gift it to people, but also for investing in art that other people create. Because the best way for anybody to make a good living is to sell something artistic that they did, even that if that was, a podcast where they tell about their experiments or whatnot. Like that's the big purchases that we make. Those need to be those purchases, because for most people that's what's going to keep them healthy. If you can make a living from something that contributes to their well-being. And I've even seen, you know along my sort of training, I've seen people even who recover from um, sex trafficking. And most of these people, women, they would either have like, epoxy creation or special candles that they make or special art that they make or some, like I even met the person who did sex work, and she said, I choose to do that. And she was doing arts like leather jewelry, and and the only reason she was doing like sex work for herself was like if she could make a living from these jewelries that she makes, that would be the best. But if not, she prefers to be her own boss, because anyway she would be harassed at work and so on and so forth. And that was her reasoning. You can agree with that and not agree, it's not the point. But the point is that when what actually heals people is when they can make money from something that they create and actually make a living from it. Think about also Saturn, the type of artists that we lose every Saturn return and so on and so forth, or Saturn in Pisces, is usually the people that are creative and need to have a place in the world. Um, so setting aside to invest in art, I think is a lot more of a healthy form. It's not instead of donations, but if there is something that can eliminate excess need for donations or keep people in a cycle where you know, they can't step out of welfare without stepping into ailment back again, then that's going to be the thing where people create and they can have time off. They can live with nature and with the cosmos, um, and work with that. And then you would meet, it's the same people you would meet, needing food or needing shelter, will be the people that you go to, in auctions and buy their stuff, and the people that you listen to their podcasts, and the people who create beautiful things. And isn't that a lovely way to interact that we want to have? Um, and isn't that a good investment? So these are my thoughts, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.